Hi, I'm Bernard Nomberg with the Nomberg Law Firm in Birmingham, Alabama. And I've had a few people call me in the last 10 days asking whether if COVID-19 or the coronavirus is discovered in the workplace, should OSHA be contacted? Should they do an investigation? Well, there's a few thoughts here that I want to go over, some of which are OSHA's requirements and some of their standards. And this is a little technical, but just keep this in mind as I go through this. OSHA does have recording workplace exposure issues and protocol in place dealing with COVID-19. Employers should record certain work-related injuries and illnesses on their OSHA 300 log. For employers or people at the employment who are responsible for these types of things, they'll know what that log is. COVID-19 could be a recordable illness if a worker is infected as a result of performing their work-related duties. However, employers are only responsible for recording cases of COVID-19 if the following three things are met. 1, the case is confirmed that it is COVID-19, and under the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, they have a list of those descriptions for COVID-19 and how it gets investigated and those types of things. 2, the case is work-related as defined by the OSHA regulations. And 3, the case involves one or more of the general recording criteria that's also in those regulations. For example, medical treatment beyond first aid, days away from work, and those types of things. If you want more specific information, below I'll put the link to the OSHA website that gives those more in detail. The other thing to keep in mind are the various standards for OSHA's directives and how things should be when there is an exposure in the workplace, whether it's COVID-19 or something else. This covers all types of similar instances. OSHA does have requirements, not specifically for COVID-19, but for this type of situation or potential for preventing occupational exposure when dealing with the following. Among the most relevant criteria, OSHA addresses personal protective equipment standards, such as called PPE, and that's in the general industry when you should be having whether it's eyewear or masks or coverings over different parts of the body. There's also what's called a general duty clause under OSHA, which requires employers to furnish each worker employment and a place of employment which are free from recognized hazards that are causing or likely to cause death or serious harm. So those two criteria are general, but they would cover this type of situation dealing with COVID-19 coronavirus. Many states, over half of the states, also have their state regulations dealing with OSHA. So whatever particular state you're in, you may want to research whether your state has its local OSHA office and whether their standards meet the federal guidelines or maybe more stringent. Employers must also protect their workers from exposure to hazardous chemicals used for cleaning and disinfection. Now there's a whole another area of OSHA that deals with that type of chemical exposure or occupational exposure hazards. You know, common sanitizers and things that used chemical-wise to clean surfaces also could be hazardous. There's many scenarios here. Don't overreact, but use your common sense when you feel that it could be or should be a recordable event. If you're an employee and there's that type of situation, first go through the chain of command at your employment. Hopefully they'll be responsive and reactive accordingly and get things taken care of. And if they don't, you always have the option to contact the Occupational Health and Safety OSHA Administration. And again, I'll put their contact information below. I hope this provides a little bit of guidance. Every situation is different. If If you have questions or concerns, just reach out to us at 205-930-6900. Our website is nomberglaw.com. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and tell us why. And if you didn't, we want to hear about that too, because we're always striving to improve what we're doing around here. If you want to get future videos, just subscribe to our channel here. We're putting them out not daily, but weekly. We can also be found on Facebook and Twitter.